struggling, fighting, all in the name of getting better. And then the real challenge begins. Harold the Star Trek Nerd. Episode 3. Time Seed.
I don't think there's ever been a man in history who understood the Nexus Void quite as much as me. Even before I made it my home, to some degree I understood that the infinite highway, with infinite on and off ramps, was a limiting analogy. I sit here in my web, the king of all that I survey, yet I am as powerless over this domain as an ant is over the weather. Perhaps I need to get out more. I'm getting a little stir-crazy. Then again, what would I do?
The monitor in front of him flashed, and the space around him rumbled.
Is that... No. They would never be so bold.
He stood up, and walked to a cracked window. He traced a line with his finger.
Well, I'll be damned. They actually had the stones. Maybe I should pay them a visit.
He started tearing his surroundings apart.
Where is it? Where is it? Ah, there it is.
He pulled out a wrist panel and attached it to himself.
It looks like they went to Hollow Falls about 20 years, 3 months before Earth was destroyed. I think I can make it without my anchor working.
He pressed some buttons and a cord shot out from his wrist panel. It passed through the walls and hit something in the far distance.
Well, here we go.
He pressed a button on his wrist and was dragged towards his destination with incredible speed. He materialized on the other side, in a field overlooking the town.
Strange. I feel like I've been here before. Well, it wouldn't be the first time I've forgotten something.
He looked down.
But I'll never forget anything, ever again.
He twisted a knob on his wrist panel and walked into town.
Do it.
Why?
You need to learn how to be an agent.
How is this learning how to be an agent?
Just do it!
What's that coffee, ice cream, stuffed sausage thing called again?
The mocha schnitzel.
Can I have one of those?
Sure, honey, coming right up.
How is ordering a mocha schnitzel a useful skill as an agent?
It's important to be decisive and adapt to local culture, and also it's important not to need to take 30 minutes for a 20-second conversation.
I guess I'm starting to see your point.
He got his mocha schnitzel and they walked to a table. The line glared at them the entire time.
When was the last time you had an actual human interaction with somebody who wasn't a slimy little cruncher?
Hey, I was an analyst a month ago.
Yes, and like a child becoming a man, you could never go back to the slimy, insignificant nature you were brought into this world with. Now answer my question.
I didn't really talk much when I was an analyst. But it's a really competitive field, and everybody is looking for something and some way to get any advantage they can.
And you didn't?
I tried to keep my head low and let my work speak for me.
That is something I never thought I'd hear from a cruncher. Maybe the mocha schnitzel is actually getting to your head.
This is the weirdest thing that has ever touched my tongue.
Wait. You were born on Mars. You've never had anything other than the standard food rations.
I mean, I've had the sandwiches they serve in the cafeteria.
Ah, that is so sad and pathetic. I think I know where we should stop next.
Where?
I'm gonna take you around town so that you can get some experience with Earth.
Shouldn't we go back to the pod so we can work on the case?
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
What?
You have so much to learn, young Padawan.
Are you speaking in some sort of code?
This is going to be an uphill battle.
The sun was shining through the window and the birds were chirping outside. Harold opened his eyes with hesitation. He slowly sat up and put his hand on his face. He hadn't slept well. He stood up and walked toward the window. Outside, he saw the usual joggers, people walking their dogs, the sporadic car, but none of it felt real.
Hey, Harold, why don't you come out of your lair and come talk to me?
Harold shuffled over to his closet and changed out of his pajamas.
I'll be out in a minute.
He made his way toward the door and could smell it. Leroy was making breakfast. He took a deep breath and walked outside.
Please don't tell me.
Today is the day. Surely you haven't forgotten the breakfast we ate almost every day for 18 years.
You're making dejeged mod?
I knew you remembered.
How could I have forgot any of the fusion meals we had as children?
Remember when we took a day trip down to Basin Falls and had to stop here for gas?
Dad tried the mocha schnitzel and loved it.
If there's anything this town excels in, it's weird fusion food.
I've had my fair share.
Bon maltide.
Harold grabbed a plate and dished up his dejeged mod.
Mom and Dad really did have to share everything, didn't they?
It's who we are.
Why did you make dejeged mod?
I figured we should try something familiar to help you feel more normal.
I haven't eaten dejeged mod since the holidays.
Yes, well, as far as I could remember, it was your favorite.
It still is.
They sat quietly eating. Leroy tried to make conversation, but Harold was very dismissive. When they finished eating, Leroy stood up.
Well, I think Samantha should be here soon. There's a parade in town and I think we should go see it.
Why do I have to leave the house today?
Leroy grabbed a light jacket and dragged Harold to the door.
It's a beautiful day outside, and it's about time you stopped being treated like a depressed housewife in the 1800s. We don't need you tearing out the wallpaper.
Leroy put the light jacket on Harold, and Harold reluctantly followed him down the hall. Once they reached the bottom floor, they saw Samantha waiting outside. Leroy opened the door and pushed Harold outside.
He's not happy, is he?
I think getting some sun and social interaction will be good.
We could go to the parade.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Leroy and Samantha dragged Harold to Samantha's car and put him in the back seat. Leroy walked around to get in back with Harold.
What are you doing?
I figured you wouldn't want me up front.
Believe it or not, I've been paying attention to you for the last week, making Harold breakfast every day, doing everything you can to help him feel better. I don't think I can dismiss the bad you've done, but I can't dismiss the good either. It's fine if you sit up front.
Thanks.
Leroy got up front, and they slowly accelerated to the parade. Harold melancholily stared out his window to see some birds fluttering about the countryside.
I bet you love living in such a beautiful area.
I did. Now I feel nothing.
Why did you love living in the countryside then?
I liked hiking back when I first came here. But now, I don't know. The world doesn't look the same. All the greens seem less green. All the blues, less blue. Everything feels more mute. More numb.
Wow, that is a mood killer if ever I heard one.
Well, we aren't far from the parade. Maybe you'll find some feeling there.
They kept driving through the flowering fields until they arrived at a local gathering spot. The parade was going in a loop on a circular road with businesses set up around the road. One end of the field had been converted to a temporary carnival. They parked and walked into town.
Wait, they have a carnival?
Oh yeah, you don't do so well with carnivals, do you?
No, I don't like carnivals for the same reason I don't like alcohol.
Are you going to be okay?
I'll be fine.
So, Harold, where do you want to go next?
Home.
How about we get one of those mocha schnitzels? Don't you love those?
Nothing I loved before has any meaning.
They walked to the local coffee shop, and they had to push their way through a crowd. They merged on the other side quickly, but were moving too fast and collided with a couple just coming out of the coffee shop.
Oh, I am so sorry. Are you okay?
Oh, we're fine. It's all part of this time of year, I guess.
Samantha and Leroy helped the two up. The woman was genial, but the man was very uncomfortable.
What's your name?
Oh, my name is Jane. What's your name?
My name is Samantha. This is Leroy, and this is Harold.
Well, my very shy companion's name is James.
That's my middle name.
The strangest coincidences. Well, we ought to get going. James has never tried a jalapeno before, and I want to see his reaction.
Okay. Well, I hope to see you around.
Don't be a stranger.
They started walking away.
I'll never understand how you are so social.
I will never understand how you are so not.
They walked inside and tried to order a mocha schnitzel, but had to retreat after seeing the faces other patrons made at that request.
Well, that was rude.
Wait, where's Harold?
Meanwhile, George was on his way to the parade with Susan, and some clouds were rolling in from the north.
Hey, George, do you think those clouds are going to be a problem?
Nah. They're moving so slow they won't reach the fair by the time we leave.
What's that?
What's what?
Susan pointed at something running onto the road at high speed.
That!
I honestly have no idea.
It's coming right for us!
George swerved the car to the side, but right before they hit anything, it stopped.
I think it's a guy.
It walked up to the side of the car and knocked on the windshield.
Well, hi there. I didn't mean to startle you folks. My car broke down on one of them back roads, and I was wondering if y'all could take me into town.
George whispered to Susan.
Why does he have that accent?
Yeah, nobody around here even talks like that. Even the most extremely rural accents here sound more like a mix of Brazilian and German.
Well, town is only 15 minutes away.
I guarantee you he will murder us.
Wanna bet?
You've got to be kidding me.
$20 says he won't murder us.
Fine.
Hey, yeah. We'll take you into town.
Much obliged. I've tried to get rides from 3 different cars, but they were all too highfalutin to let me in.
Yeah, don't mention it.
The man got in the back seat of the car and kept to himself until they got to the fair.
Well, here we are.
Yeah, so...
I'm getting the boot. Thank you for your hospitality. I'm much obliged.
He stepped out and walked away from the car.
Much obliged indeed.
George escorted Susan to the hot dog stand and was shocked to see no line.
1 hot dog for milady.
Wow, you gallant knight, how shall I ever repay you?
No thanks necessary, for thanks would tarnish my nobility.
Where is everybody?
Yes. 'Tis strange how we seem to be the only fellows perusing this street.
They walked around until they found a crowd gathered around a flagpole. They could hear shouting. George walked around the circle until he heard a familiar voice.
Harold! Harold! Harold!
George followed his voice until they found Leroy and Samantha.
Where's Harold?
In the center. Let's just say the shit has hit the fan.
What happened?
About 15 minutes earlier, Harold had wandered off to get some alone time. He was sitting by a pond and reflecting when he saw some rowdy teenagers screwing around on the other side.
Take that!
The first teenager threw something into the water.
What a waste! How's it a waste? We are helping eliminate this ripoff.
What could possibly be wrong with throwing this? What's it called?
A bird of prey.
I guess you're right. Star Trek only ripped off Star Wars anyways.
Harold could hear his heart beating. He looked down at his hands.
What's happening to me?
He felt his breathing get heavy. The blood pulsed throughout his body. There was more pressure building and building until...
You're not only wrong, you're littering!
Harold jumped up and started chasing the teenagers down. 2 of them got away, but Harold caught one and was carrying him like he weighed nothing.
What is wrong with you?
Hello, me, kak, jasvam!
What?
Touche pas, cool, pour me sauver, oh!
Harold was being chased now by several pedestrians trying to save the teenager, but he was so fast and powerful that he knocked everybody over who tried to grab him. He knocked over a traffic cop with a megaphone and stole the megaphone. He was cornered by a wall of police and pedestrians by the flagpole. A police officer pulled out his taser and shot Harold with it. Harold merely turned around and grabbed the flagpole. He began to climb. The taser detached once Harold got to the top. Harold grasped the top of the flagpole and put the teenager under his arm. With the same arm holding the teenager, he pulled out the megaphone and started yelling profanities about Star Wars fans to the crowd. He kept doing this for about 5 minutes until Leroy, Samantha, George, and Susan broke through the crowd. Leroy spoke to the police officer and was handed a megaphone.
Hey Harold, I know you haven't been feeling well, but I hardly think this is a solution.
Harold turned to Leroy, and Leroy could clearly see that Harold's eyes were as glassy as they were when he was under the influence of Star Trek.
Oh, so I guess there are lingering effects. Samantha, do you want to try?
What good will that do?
Well, maybe hearing from a friend would calm him down more than his estranged brother who he hates.
Fine. Hey, teenager, what happened?
I was disposing of something with some friends.
What happened right before he went crazy?
I said Star Wars is better than Star Trek, and you're only wrong. You're literally, and then started speaking gibberish.
This is all my fault. Hey, Harold, he didn't mean it. Star Trek is awesome, right, kid?
Yeah, it's great.
Harold's breathing began to slow, and the people on the ground could all tell that he was losing strength.
Hurry, they're gonna fall!
Several people gathered around the base of the pole, and Harold swayed back and forth until he lost his grip and fell. He was asleep when he landed, and both he and the teenager were okay. Harold was brought to the city hospital, where he was studied intensely.
What the hell? Why would you do that?
Fine. I won't trick you into eating something spicy again. I give my word.
Agent 67 was drinking excessive amounts of water and taking very deep breaths.
Come on, the spiciest thing you've ever had is the paprika on the agency sandwiches.
Yeah, and it took me 5 years to work my way up to that.
Look, this is a town with spice. Half of the people here are descended from Brazilian immigrants.
How is this even possible? I'm not supposed to get injured because of the Nexus shield.
Who told you that?
I heard it on my first day.
The Nexus shield protects you from aging, not damage. Your body just quickly reverts back to the way it was when you entered the Nexus Void.
This is taking forever.
I can't wait to see your reaction after you use the bathroom.
Why?
No reason.
They walked about the now mostly deserted streets and saw the spot where Harold had climbed the flagpole.
Just so we're sure, there isn't any way that we could have caused this, right?
Of course not. This is just a really fortunate situation.
How so?
The destruction of Earth got pushed back another year.
4 down and 16 to go.
They began to make their way back, and they saw the crowd by the ambulance. They made a sharp 180-degree turn, and before Agent 67 could stop, he ran into a passerby.
Oh, I am so sorry. Are you okay?
You are all good, compadre. I was moving too fast anyway.
He walked away cheerily.
I swear today has been the strangest day I have ever lived.
Really? More strange than the day you learned time travel is real?
That weird realization was undermined by my extreme depression at the time.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Well, I think it's about time I head back and do some actual work. But you can peruse for a little. I'll cover for you.
Thanks, I think I will.
Agent 49 patted Agent 67 on the back, and they went their separate ways. Agent 67 smiled and went to go try a hot dog, as the only meat he'd ever had before this was thin-sliced ham. He reached into his pocket to grab some money, but he felt something strange. He pulled out a torn slip of paper with writing on one side that read,
Harold was tired of listening to Star Wars fans with ludicrous arguments about how Star Trek ripped off Star Wars. So he climbed up a flagpole with a megaphone to set everyone straight.
He flipped the paper over, and there was a very small message written on the back.
Did you really think I'd let you work unimpeded? Who do you think I am? But you are interesting. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Sincerely, Agent 11.
Agent 67 looked around, but nobody was there, so he just grabbed his hot dog and left.
Thank you for watching Harold the Star Trek Nerd. Harold the Star Trek Nerd is a Nexus Group podcast written by Dylan Ash and produced by Hayden Reese, Haley DiGirolamo, and Dylan Ash. I'd like to take a moment to thank the cast for all their hard work. They are, in order of appearance, William Stewart, Samantha Woodruff, Donovan Peterson, Kaylee Wilson, Cage Eschbach, Spencer Holland, Haley DiGirolamo, Maya Pont, Chase Hinman, Andre Eschbach, Hayden Reese, and finally, Creed Button. Sound effects for Harold the Star Trek Nerd were sourced from freesound.org. One last, very important thank you goes out to Aidan Henry for composing a carnival theme for this episode. Tune in next time for the Comic-Con Incident, Part 1. Thank you, and good night.